And if you'd please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to recess for the closed meeting, and we're going to go upstairs.
Need a motion for
Need a motion for the closed.
55107.
Oh, sorry.
Second.
Okay, motion carries. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we can reconvene to open meeting. Consideration of possible action of items discussed in the closed meeting.
Mr. Chairman, we need a motion to authorize the general manager to purchase blocks 19 and 20, block 3, Freddie Hall subdivision.
So moved. Second.
So moved by Mr. Vasquez, second by Mr. Farias. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The general manager's report.
The chair members of the board, just financial report for review.
Thank you.
Yes, this is our financial performance report as of December 31st, 2011. This is our first quarter for fiscal year 2012. I'm going to go over this pretty quick in the interest of time. Gross revenues are on line 7 for the first quarter were $45,982,981. Adjusted gross revenues $31,063,830. Total requirements against these revenues was $19,555,847, leaving a balance of surplus of $10,436,736. This amount, $2,035,136, has been transferred to the city after deducting usage off the 10% calculation. 8.4 has been retained by BPUB, of which $2,692,960 has been transferred to fund our $10 million improvement CIP funding budget, leaving a balance of $5,708,640 in surplus. These graphs compare the actual amounts to budget in the prior year. Electric sales are trending pretty much in line with last year actuals in 5 years. Water is exceeding also 2011 levels by 151,200,000 gallons, as well as wastewater is exceeding 2011 levels. This graph illustrates our position in terms of monthly bills for residential customers as compared to other local utilities. BPUB's December bill of $89.83 was well below most of the other utilities. Magic Valley was the only other utility with a bill slightly lower than ours. On a 12-month rolling average, we are the lowest, $93.75. Everyone else is either at mid-90 or $100 per residential customer. We are faring pretty well in line with the municipal utilities, as you can see here in this graph. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Jim. Mr. Buzak?
That's all.
Next, we're going to have the presentation of a proclamation of Board of Directors of the Brownsville Public Utilities Board, the city of Brownsville, Texas, recognizing and commending Arturo R. We have I guess you can come up front here. This is a proclamation. It's proclamation from the Board of Directors of the Brownsville Public Utilities Board of the City of Brownsville, Texas, recognizing and commending Arturo R. Farias for his unselfish and dedicated service to the Brownsville Public Utilities Board and resolving all matters thereof. I'd like to commend you and thank you for all your hard work, for your outstanding work, Mr. Farias, and it's from the board and from the City of Brownsville. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Morales. Thank you to the board. I'm just very proud to be part of this board. I think that we're in exciting times here at the Brownsville Public Utility Board and for the community. So I just want to let the public know that good things are going to continue happening, and also commend the leadership of management and everybody that's involved in this public utility. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm still here.
And Mr. Farias was reappointed for another 4 years. Congratulations, Mr. Farias, and thank you once again for your dedication and hard work. The quarterly investment activity report for the period ending December 31st, 2011, pursuant to Chapter 2256.023 of the Public Funds Investment, Leandro Garcia.
Yes, we are required in the Public Funds Investment Act to present to the board, at least on a quarterly basis, our financial results of our portfolio investments. This chart illustrates our total portfolio of 168 million market value, 168.5415, broken down by the different types of instruments. We do diversify our investment portfolio to achieve or to mitigate risk concentration. We have 48,709,000 in agency securities, yielding ranging a yield of 51 basis points up to 113. Most of these securities mature in 2013. Wells Fargo deposits are yielding 1% for our contracted earnings credit. We are maintaining $17,859,000 here in bank deposits. Investment in pool and money markets total $62 million, yielding on an average of 9 basis points in pools and 25 basis points on the Texas term, which is a longer term, or including commercial paper here in this pool. Certificates of deposit under our CDARS program with Frost, $2,007,457 was yielding 48 basis points. And our money market investment with Federated Prime Obligations, $27 million, was yielding 17 basis points. Overall, our yield is 42 basis points, or 4.42%. This pie chart illustrates the breakdown in the various instruments. And when compared with the S&P Government Investment Pool Index, which is the blue line, we're just faring pretty well at 0.42 versus the 0.05 as of December for the S&P Pool Index. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Now we're item number 5. Consideration approval to approve amendment number 3 for the fiscal year 2012 capital improvement plan budget. Mr. Garcia.
Yes, this is a housekeeping item. We at the last month's meeting, we brought to you a shift in funding of some projects from commercial paper to improvement fund surplus. This is the second step in shifting the funding out of the improvement fund. This amendment reduces commercial paper requirements. The projects that were approved in January, some of them were on the CIP plan as funding under the CP program. So this in essence reduces CP requirements of the overall plan, bringing down the previously approved plan of 94 million down to 91 million.
Is there any questions?
We have an attachment that illustrates the 3 amendments thus far. The first amendment, second amendment, that we're providing for additional funding, and then this third amendment providing for a reduction in the plan.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we approve the amendment.
There's a motion, Mr. Farias, is there a second? Second? All right, Mr. Nakira, discussion? Any questions? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And it's a recommended action.
Yes.
Okay, item number 6. Consideration approval to approve amendment number 4 for the fiscal year 2012 capital improvement plan budget.
This amendment also shifts funding from commercial paper to improvement funds. We had some laboratory AC control system improvements at $83,000 that we're funding improvement funding versus commercial paper. So it's a zero impact on our overall CIP plan. It just shifts the funding source.
Motion to approve the recommended amendment.
Motion by Mr. Farias. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Vasquez. Any discussion, questions?
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Recommended action. BPUB staff. Item number 7. Consideration approval for general manager and chief executive officer to negotiate a contract with Freese and Nichols for phase 1 of the Filter Rehabilitation Project for water plant number 1 and 2.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, November 14th of 2011, the board approved the selection of Freese and Nichols as the engineering consultant for the design of the filter rehabilitation project for both water plants. Freese and Nichols has submitted phase 1 proposal, which is the study of the existing plant conditions in order to ensure that all the components are working properly, and that if anything needs to be improved to maximize the filter system rehabilitation and upgrades, we know about. Under the phase 1 of the contract, Freese and Nichols will prepare a report outlining the findings and recommendations, and the preliminary cost estimate is $88,888. Has been submitted as part of the design fee and study for the project. And we have requested the hourly breakdown in order to negotiate the costs associated with the study. PUB staff recommends approval of the general manager to negotiate a contract with Freese and Nichols for phase 1 of the filter rehabilitation project for water plant 1 and 2 at a fee not to exceed of $88,888.
I move that we recommend staff's recommendation.
Okay, motion, Mr. Faria. Second by Mr. Nakira. Any questions, discussion?
Quick question. What was the scope under phase 1? What was the phase 1 scope?
Okay, we had a project kickoff meeting where we reviewed the scope of the work, and the filter assessment is going to be part of this study, and we're going to have the performance and condition of the filters. We're going to be studying that, and there are 3 different filter designs for the 2 water plants, and there will be a separate evaluation of each of the filters. We're going to have a physical evaluation of all the filters, including the structural piping, the valves, electrical, and instrumentation and control, documentation of the operating procedures for the filters, the media evaluation, the material specifications, etc.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, there's a motion on the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Recommended action of the PUB staff. Item number 8, discussion and possible action to request proposals of qualifications for professional and other outside services utilized by the BPUB. Was there any discussion?
We did have a workshop on that, and these are the main items for firms that we work with. If you want to look at those, or all of those, or start with some of them to look at, and we can develop the criteria for the qualifications, send those out, and bring that back to the board, whatever the way.
What direction you want to take?
Well, I would recommend moving forward so that you can further develop the applications to be reviewed for the firms that we talked about in the workshop, including financial services, to include financial services. So I believe we talked about 3 different legal
Yes,
and then 1 financial advisor.
and the bond council too. You want to look at that, or
Yes.
So it'd be
be 5 over there?
the first 5 on the list?
Yeah.
Second.
Okay, motion is by,
The motion is to begin the process with the first 5 on the list.
Do you want us to do this, bring it back at the next meeting, or just go out and solicit qualifications?
Well, what would you all recommend? How would you
It's
go?
up to the board. If you're comfortable with it, we can develop the RFQ and circulate that, or bring it back at next meeting, or go out for
Well, you know, I would look at, you know, you're gonna look at those, but also you're gonna get the amounts paid out to this firm.
Yes.
And if we can, you know, look at that before we make
Or at least,
Okay.
Okay, I'll bring that at the next meeting, or we may have a special meeting, we'll have that, and the cost breakdown and comparison of each one for the last 5 years. Okay?
okay, so I got that motion?
so the motion is to
Motion.
proceed with the first 5 firms.
First 5 firms.
Developing the criteria in which we're going to use to go up to the RFQ.
So the motion would be develop an RFQ to move forward.
And the 5-year cost comparison of what we spent versus what we received.
And I second that motion.
Second by Mr. Vasquez. Any discussion?
I'd just like to make comment that all this law firms have done an excellent job for PUB, and actually, one of the main reasons we've been successful is because of having very good legal services. And so I just think that in the workshop, we just discussed having more of an open dialogue so the public can know who we're engaging for legal services. So I just want to commend that we've had a very good relationship, and look forward to having this RFP.
Yes, they've all been outstanding law firms and bonding companies and investment companies.
I was gonna ask, would you like some of these to be reviewed by a committee, or before we come back to the board, or just come back to the board?
Let's come back to the board. Any other discussion? Comments? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Now we're moving to the consent, right, consent agenda. Is there any, I think there was some of the items that were, somebody commented to me.
I'd like to see item number 2.
Item number 2 is consideration approval for the purchase of various trucks and vans.
You wanna take that now?
Yes.
Yes, and item number 7.
And item number 7.
Yes, on item number 2, purchasing staff went out
I'm sorry.
yes.
Do we need to vote on the
Do
remaining?
we need to vote on the remaining items first, or?
If you want, you can do that first, or you can pull these out. You don't need to vote to pull anything out. If you want to take a vote on the remaining consent agenda items, and then come back to these, you can do that as well.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and move forward. Leandro, you also have one?
Yes, item number
Well, let-
just have a question for everyone.
Okay, well, let's move forward with Leandro, and at the end, we can vote.
Okay, we did go out to solicit bids for 38 vehicles and received 3 responses from 3 vendors, after having gone out to 13 vendors. The recommendations here are for Tipton Motors of Brownsville, 37 vehicles at $757,874.06, and Rodriguez Ford Mercury, Lyford, Texas, for 1 commercial cargo van at $70,235 for a total of $775,109.06. Now, some of the items for Tipton Motors are qualified under the 5% rule. We can entertain any questions if
My question is, are these, they do some trucks, correct?
Sir?
Some trucks?
Yes, they are pickups, yeah.
How many?
There's 38 altogether.
38?
But there's
34 like-
34 trucks and other vans and,
So are we going to be placing or installing bumper cars in those trucks as well? And what is the purpose of the bumper cars? That's my main point. Why do we have all these big trucks with bumper
There
cars?
has been a standing standard on that, but we, come here. Is there any, and you can offer?
Our bid did not include.
You want to come?
So we can hear you.
We've normally been taking them out if we have a truck, a light truck with that guard, and it goes out on auction, and then reinstall it on a new vehicle. We can continue that if some of the units are up for, or will be up for auction as replacement units. Just rotating the use of those guards.
Are they really necessary? I mean, you know, brush guard, and I kind of looked up on the internet because I've always wondered why all our trucks, I mean, you see vans and trucks and they all have, and I know you're new here, welcome to the PUB family. And, and, you know, it's just a concern that because they're not factory placed, you know, because all these cars, there's certain things that, you know, the way if there's an accident, the way they rumble and stuff. I don't know, I'm not an engineer, but I can imagine these could affect to that extent, you know, the brush cars.
Well, I would respond to that question in this matter. We did some research with not only Tipton, but Ford Motor Company. And Ford Motor Company says that the vehicles have airbag sensors which guide and direct the speed and the direction that the airbags are expounded. And based on that, they will not commit to this, but they said that it has a possibility of interfering with the execution of the airbags. That's one reason why we didn't spec our trucks with those guards on there. And I think that's a very good technical reason to entertain that option.
Of getting rid of them,
Yes, sir.
start getting rid of them.
Also, fuel efficiency, that would have extra weight in the pickup.
Well, when you consider the added weight on the front, when you consider braking, when you consider all of the other issues of tire wear, brakes, alignment, so on and so forth, long term, it has an effect on that. So for that second reason, I would recommend that we not use them.
What we can do moving forward is rotate those existing guards to vehicles that tend to need them. We'll leave that up to T&D folks and tell us if they're gonna be off-road use in an area where it can provide a little bit of protection or useful need. And use them in those instances only, and do away with just those vehicles that are just running down the streets, you know, up and down. So we can accommodate those that need them and do away with them when they want. But we'll do it a case-by-case basis based on input from our engineers.
Does anybody else have any questions? Do you have any other questions?
I got some comment there. If you notice on there as well that what Tom is saying, that we're not specking them out. Anything we're doing to the vehicle, we're asking the OEM to do the installation. The lights are on there because we had some difficulty with staff install lighting that caused two fires in automobiles. So those interconnections to the system are being spec'd out for the OEM to provide and to warrant the installation.
I saw that it was in the,
So
was it in the,
if we didn't spec out the grills because we're not gonna be putting the grill on.
good.
Yeah, it is adding a cost of 60 and 24, but that's something we opted to do to keep warranty and OEM compliance.
Thank you. What other one did you have?
Number 7?
Number 7? Consideration approval to amend,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
once these items have been removed from the consent agenda, my advice would be to vote on them individually.
Oh, individually? Also, well, then we should vote for the, let's go ahead and vote for the other item. He has number 8 that he wanted to, was it number 8?
No, but you're saying vote on the items that we pulled out, right, and we asked
That's
questions
correct.
about? So that would be item number two
Also,
right now?
let's go ahead and vote on
Yes, sir.
item number 2 then.
That's correct.
Okay, well then,
You know, I make a motion to go with PUB staff recommendation for approval of purchase of the vehicle for the removal bidder.
Second.
And also for the, as far as the grill guards, you know, to do away with those. So,
okay, we have a second, Mr. Vasquez, any further questions?
Mr. Hernandez, unless there's a need for one,
unless there's one, as far as, like Mr. Garcia said, the fleet manager would make that decision.
also, for wages and things like that.
Exactly. Okay. All right.
Thank you. All in favor?
All right.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, that was number 2. Now we're gonna move to number 7. Okay. Number 7, consideration approval of amend current purchase order for the repair of Unit 9 generator.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, our power plant manager here is here tonight, Lozano, to tell you more about this.
Yes, members of the board, this item is for the repair and restoration of the unit number 9 generator. During our inspection of unit number 9, which was another project that was approved by the board some time back, we subjected the generator to an inspection and test, and during one of the tests, it experienced a failed winding, thus indicating a fault. This winding has to be replaced by the original equipment manufacturer. They're on site now doing this on an emergency basis, and this is all in preparation for the winter season that's coming upon us real soon. The winding is a factory part that we're getting out of England. This is an English machine, and it failed its test at roughly just 124% of its test capacity, which means that it didn't even meet the minimum requirements. So we were very fortunate to find it. Had this thing failed in actual operation, the damage to the generator would have been catastrophic. For this reason, that the general manager's approval, we proceeded with the repair and are now asking for the board to ratify this expense.
Okay, is there any questions?
Thank you for the explanation.
Any questions?
I move that we approve the staff recommendation for the purchase to repair the unit 9.
A motion by Mr. Farias to do staff recommendation. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Mr. Vasquez, any questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Number 8,
Okay, number 8. Consideration approval to amend current purchase order for crane services provided to the Silas Ray Power Plant.
My question was, you know, the initial presentation to the board on this item that was presented back in August the 8th, what was it, or what was it for?
Yes, the work that I mentioned earlier that was approved by the board was the contract for Siemens Westinghouse to do the job. That is to overhaul the unit. PUB, during that presentation, was going to provide the crane services. However, because we were working under a finite contract with Siemens, Siemens eventually elected to work overtime, including weekends. And unfortunately, the item that we presented to the board did not account for this time. And they were there strictly to oversee or assist Siemens during the repair of unit number 9. So there was a cost overrun on that particular item.
So really, it goes back to item number 7 we just discussed right now? It's the same project?
Part of that expense was used also in the disassembly of unit number 9 generator 2, yes. But it was more used for the overhaul of the combustion turbine, which was approved last October, I believe.
Number 7 is more operating related,
Exactly.
and the other was actual.
But the crane service that was used, it was for that particular generator as far as the repairs?
It's all the same.
It's all the same one?
Yes, that's correct.
If they're connected by a shaft, but they're all considered one unit. Drive around the generator.
There were several items on the consent agenda, all associated.
But it's all underneath that same umbrella, that $4.5 million that we approved for the rehab of number 9, correct?
Correct. And that's all still under budget, however, at some time in the future, depending upon the final outcome, it may actually go something else. So we'll bring that back to you to keep you abreast.
We voted.
Any other questions? Okay, motion of Mr. Nakira to do staff, BPUB staff recommendations, or second? Second by Mr. Farias. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I make a motion to approve consent items 1 through 12, except 2, 7, and 8.
And number 5.
Or you need to ask for.
We can do it afterwards. And number 5, he's going to remove number 5.
Okay, so I make a motion to approve consent items 1 through 12, except 2, 7, 5,
And 8. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nakira. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Number 5. Consideration approval of amendment number 4 for additional construction phase engineering services by AECOM for the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act sanitary sewer overflow projects for contract 6 and 7.
This is for the extension of professional engineering services for both contracts. It's basically an additional year. Both contracts were supposed to be finished August of 2011, and one of them will be finished July 2012, and the other one August 2012. This is, one of the contracts was SNL, SLC Construction, which they defaulted on that project. The contractor defaulted, so we're having to do more of the engineering after that. And that's basically on both of the projects.
So that's on both contracts 6 and 7?
Yes.
They defaulted on?
It was the same contractor that defaulted, so AECOM has to do additional engineering services for both projects.
And that engineering services wouldn't be covered by the surety?
They could possibly look at that, yeah.
Okay. No, because I mean, it wasn't we chose the engineering firm and we chose
We'd seek
the
to try
construction
to,
firm.
seek to try to recover those, but we still need to pay the consultants and try to recover through the surety.
Chairman, if I may, can you come back with us on the follow-up with that, to see if we can recoup that money?
Yeah.
Sure.
And I would just double check with the surety bond that, that we don't mess up if we pay ahead of time. I don't know if that's,
Well, we're holding the money, so we would withhold that money from the contract final payment.
That's, you know, better make a motion, but
So, that next come after us.
It is withheld already, so.
It already has, yeah.
Is there a motion?
Oh,
Question?
so then we would motion that we would take that action, John. If we could, to hold back that funds until it's worked out with and then bring this back to us, so that we can make that.
Yeah, I need to check with legal, make sure everything's, good. That's what I would recommend we try to do. Because this wasn't our fault, this was,
Of course, right. So is this something that we would table then? Or how would you wish that we handle it?
I would recommend you approve it, so, with the direction to seek recovery from the insurance company.
So I move, Mr. Chairman, I move to take accept staff recommendations and make this payment, but attempt to at least recover these funds from the surety.
Yes.
Okay.
I second the motion.
Second by Mr. Vasquez, is there a discussion?
well, my question was, could we just withhold that money and let them come after us?
Well, that's what we do.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So you said we could try and go after that money. I mean, the whole,
Yeah, I think what you're saying, if we legally can do that, but I think that would be what I'd recommend.
The contract itself is narrow funding, and there's no engineering per se as a line item, so that money is locked to construction and retainage. This engineering is separate, and we're funding it with commercial paper, so we may have a Water Development Board issue if we withhold out of the area with intentions to pay the engineering.
This would be a damage claim, because we would go after the surety on, even though it's engineering, would it come out of the remaining funding if we could do that?
I think we can do it.
Yeah, and these are engineering services projected out through August 2012. It's nothing we're gonna pay at the moment. It's just accumulate the time they invest in the projects.
To finalize both contracts.
okay.
So we can move forward with the motion then in a second.
I'll bring it back to the board for the report next meeting, where we are with that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to, oh, sorry, public comments? There's none? Is there a motion to adjourn? So moved by Mr. Garcia, second by Mr. Naka. All in favor? Aye.